Yes, it's another laser. Ortur Laser Master 3. It's this many. I already have a Laser Master 2 from Ortur. That's this many. Ortur provided this to me to test and demonstrate and all that kind of good stuff, and we're going to get into this coming up. I'm Roger, welcome to the shop, and if you watch any of my videos, or maybe a lot of my videos, you know I am big into lasers, and I actually have 14 of them. And each one has its own pretty much specific purpose. I do use my Ortur Laser Master 2 quite a bit. Now I've got the Laser Master 3. We're going to take this out of the box and assemble it. And then in a future video, or 2, or 3, or more, I will be comparing the Laser Master 3 to the Laser Master 2 side by side, because like I say, I have them both. I'm also going to compare this to the X-Tool D1, because I got a couple of those. So we're going to do some comparisons here. But first, going to get this thing out of the box. I'll get it laid out on the table. And then, as always with my assembly videos, the assembly will be very detailed. So if you are very adept at putting these types of things together, this will be boring. But otherwise, as I said, it's in detail. It'll show every step. So if you're not real mechanically inclined, or you get confused by whatever directions there may be, because I haven't even opened this shit. I don't know what's in here. This may help you out. So I'm going to get this unboxed. We'll get the parts laid out, and then we'll see what we got here. Okay, so what do we got here? We got extrusions. There are 5 pieces. Of course, this one here being the X gantry. This would be the front, the back, 2 sides. Pretty straightforward. Get a little box here with some tools and hardware and such in it. There's not going to be a whole lot of assembly here, because there's not much hardware. So you got the hardware there, you got the belts, which we're going to be putting on, antennae for the Wi-Fi, so it's got an antenna that screws onto the side. You get some sample materials in here to play with, a little brush and some wire ties, USB cable, power cable, connection cables for the laser itself. You get some air tubing. There is not an air compressor in here, but I have plenty of little air supplies for the built-in air assist. Power brick. You have a valve here for throttling your air supply, should you need to. And of course we have the laser head. And this, even though it's a 10-watt head, this is much smaller than the X-Tool head. But we'll get into that later. And the other thing, and something I am actually glad to see, the enclosed safety glasses. Of course, they're still a little bit cheesy, but they are actually the proper color. The proper color safety glasses or goggles for a blue diode laser is orange. That is the opposite of blue on a color chart. It cancels it out. And I've got some high-end goggles I wear over my prescription glasses here when I'm working with lasers, and they are orange. And some people may say, oh, that's a bunch of bull. Ask an optometrist. They'll tell you which color is correct for a blue diode laser. So let's get into putting this thing together. Okay, starting with the rear facing you. This would be the rear. You want the pretty side facing you. You see you've got a cable on the Y-axis there. This needs to be threaded through the side extrusion. Now these are not the same. You see here, one end has a little clippy deal there. That goes to the front, so you don't want to have that on this end. This cable here, little connector on it, there's a channel in the end of this. You need to slide this through that extrusion. And it comes out the other end. That's a good thing. Now this will lap over that, the side right here, and you'll need to put a screw in it. For that, I'm going to turn this upside down so you can see what I'm doing. Everything will line up just perfect. We have these 8mm long screws like this. I'm using a ball driver, but they do give you a alien wrench in there. And this is 3 M&Ms if you're keeping score. You may find it easier to stand it up on end, like I just did here, so I was having to fiddle with that quite a bit. You do the same thing on the other side, except you will not have a cable to deal with. There again, the end with the clip will go away from you. Okay, I've got this turned around now with the rear at the rear. This is now the front. This is the X gantry. This is where the laser mounts. You want that side facing you. The stepper motor will be on your left side. There's rollers right here. They need to pass into the grooves on the extrusion. I had to tilt that up in the air so I could see where it was. But once you get it on there, it should slide right on like this. Just like so. Now you're ready to put the front on. And here again, you've got the screws that come up from below. This cable right here will need to bend down like so, because it will eventually plug in right here. So it'll set like that, and I'm going to turn this up on its side to make it easier to do. Okay, and while this is upside down, we might as well plug in that X-axis motor right there. Now you'll notice it has two little protrusions on one side. That actually goes up. Now this is upside down, obviously, so this needs to be turned around. And it should plug in with no effort at all. You want to be very careful not to bend those pins in there. And it'll slip in just like that. Now the next thing we need to do is put these idler rollers in. And get a hold of one. That's what these guys are. That's what these are for. So there is a nylock nut on there. A nylock nut is the nut with a nylon insert. So you will have the roller, a shoulder bolt, a washer, and this nylock nut. Okay, now the washer here goes on the same side as the roller. Don't put the washer on the other side with a nut, or this isn't going to work. The washer is there to space that out so that this roller can turn freely in there. You just put your nylock nut on. And once it slips back into that little recess right there, that will keep the nut from turning. Then you can use your Allen wrench to tighten that up a ways. Don't make it too tight yet. And I'm using my ball driver again here. Same size as I used on the other bolts, 3 M&Ms. No, we don't want that completely tight, but I don't want it to fall out either. So we'll snug it up a little more right now till I get the other one on. Do the same process. And those rollers should roll freely. Okay, the next step is put your synchronized belts on. That's his belt with the teeth. The teeth go towards the inside. And something that's going to be impossible to show on the camera is there is a sprocket in this opening. The same thing on that side. Your belt needs to loop over that little sprocket in there, like this, teeth down, and the other end will come up around your roller at the other end. And as I said, it's going to be impossible to show that in there. I can barely see it. You get hooked around that, you bring it up here to the roller, move that back out of the way. Then that'll go over the roller here, and I'll need to loosen that up a little bit. And once you're on the roller, you just kind of pull it snug. Don't go crazy here. You don't need it so tight that it stretches it. Make sure it's not on the outer flange. Make sure it's down inside the roller. Make sure you're still on the belt down there, on the sprocket. Then you tighten the screw back up. You should have just a little bit of play in it like this. It shouldn't be as tight as a rubber band or anything. Should be just like that. Now I have to do the same thing for the other side. Of course, you want to make sure that rotates free, and it does. Don't spin them real fast. That's hard on stepper motors and motherboards and drivers and everything. Don't ever spin those real fast because they can generate a DC voltage. Now we just need to do the same thing with the other side. Okay, something I forgot to show is a couple of set screws. Look like this. And they go into the ends of, well, you can see that. They go into the end right here. And that is something you can use to set your belt tension. And you can tighten it there and then tighten this. I just stretch it with my fingers, but it works the same. Might make it a little bit easier for you. Having worked with so many lasers in the past, it's just kind of automatic on my part. Sometimes I don't exactly read all the directions first as a typical male. Okay, next you want to push your X-axis gantry all the way to the back. I've got the front up here towards me. There are a couple of set screws we need to put in. Okay, after gauging the travel and everything, I am pretty sure you would use the screw hole closest to the front gantry here, or I should say the front extrusion. Again, I'm using a ball driver. It's 2.5 M&Ms, again, if you're keeping score. So these stop screws just screw in there. The way this works is it uses feedback from the stepper motors instead of limit switches. And I've read about that and it works. I've never worked with a laser like that before, so this will be a little bit different. So there's one on each side to put in. Then on the front corner over here, right there, you'll see there's a little coax connector. That's where your antenna goes for your wireless. That swivels, but not real easy. So it's easier just to do this. There's our antenna. Okay, next is the laser module. There's some protective cellophane you need to take off of there. I don't know if it's cellophane, it's plastic. And one of the things they've done here that I like, and maybe they got this idea from X-Tool, instead of having a separate piece to set your focus, it's got a little kickstand that drops down, like sort of like X-Tool does. And after you set your focus, just fold that back up out of the way. So we got a little thumb screw we got to put in to lock the focus in place. Okay, the thumb screw is not in the little plastic hardware case. It is in the little plastic bag with your air valve. So that's where the thumb screw's at. Took me a minute to locate it there. So in the side of your laser housing, a little threaded hole. Get that started in there. This slips over on a dovetail. I'm just going to set it at random here. You tighten that up and that locks your head in place. Okay, I have this upside down. Time to do a little wiring. So right here we have the main wire harness. You have a whole bunch of connectors on one end and a single one at the other end. The single one goes towards the front. Place right here it plugs in. There's a tab here. That tab will go toward the top. So since I have this upside down, I have to turn it this direction, plug it in. It should plug in effortlessly, real easy, just like that. Yeah, I've got a clamp over here to hold this up so make it a little bit easier to see what I'm doing here. So you bring your wire harness up here and you'll see right here there's a place to put cable ties on. But before you do actually tie it, one of these is marked X, like this. That will go on the X-axis stepper motor right there. It's got a couple little protrusions on it. Those will go up. This should plug in with no effort. Don't force anything. If you bend them pins, they're going to be hard to fix. So now we need to tie this cable up here. And it'll tie like that. Hopefully you can see this clearly. Okay, this is going to tie in here like this. So you'll take your cable tie, and if you've never used a cable tie before, there's a flat side and a protruded side. Always wrap it so it goes into the flat side. If you try to put it in the other side, it's not going to hold. So this just slips down through the back of that and around. So we'll get that started. Get her up in place there good. You pull it tight, and that is wide enough, so just for insurance I'm going to put a second one in there. Once you have those pulled tight, you can cut them off. You'll have another cable that has what I call a DIN connector on one end. It's round with a little keyway on it. The other end will be a Molex connector. That will be fastened there. This plugs into the top of the laser head. There's a key on it, key slot. That terminal right there has also got a key. Line the key up. Push it in, don't force anything. Now there's some holes down here to use some wire ties on. But you don't want to do this. You want to have enough slack so this can move its entire travel. So you would want to move it all the way to one side. And this will plug into one marked L. That must mean laser. This is keyed, it only goes in one way. So from there, you want to start tying your cable back. And I'm actually going to tie on the back side of that first Molex connector. Make sure when you're doing this that you do not go around the belt on the other side like I just did. I didn't catch it till after I'd already hooked it, so I got a little do-over here. So just something to be aware of. Don't get around the belt over there. This should move. Don't move this real fast. That's hard on the drivers in there now that we're connected. But it looks like everything's going to work smoothly there. It's a little bit cool in here, so the cable's been wound up, so it'll straighten itself out when everything gets warmed up and has some time for it to relax. These other two connectors are for some future features or use. I see one's marked Z, so maybe at some point we'll have a powered Z axis. I don't know, we'll see. I'm just tying them back out of the way, keep them neat. You'll have one wire left here. That is to use with a roller accessory. And we'll demonstrate that in a future video, because there's a port right back here where you plug this in, then plug this into your roller stepper motor. And I do have an Ortur YRR along with a couple of other different brands. And they just plug right in there, and you can, instead of having a disconnect thing, you just flip a switch here. That's pretty handy. There's a section in the manual that comes with it here on adjusting the eccentric nuts on the rollers. However, they have been set from the factory, and I have no wobble or play at all. If you do find you have some wobble and you want to check it, instructions here are pretty clear. It's pretty simple. It's just a matter of placing the wrench down on the nut once you take the little decorative cover off and adjusting till you have nice smooth operation but no wobble. Of course, we have a key. So this has a key you can put in to keep, if you have any wee ones that you don't want playing with it, you'll be able to lock it out. You can also turn it on, take the key out, and put it away if you're not using that particular feature. But if you got kids around, especially little ones that like to experiment and fool around, I would definitely keep it locked. Okay, one of the things we need to do before we can start this up or do anything else is you have to put TF card in, which I call a micro SD card. There's a slot for it right up here. But I'm curious to what's on it first, so I'm going to put the little reader in on the computer here and the laptop and take a look and see what's on it. Okay, on that micro SD/TF card are the user manual in 10 languages. There's a folder for software, has Laser GRBL and Lightburn in it. Although I do suggest with either one of those you download the latest version from the respective websites. There's an installation manual and a PDF, which is exactly what this is. A little bit of a tutorial video, a couple reference tables, one for Laser GRBL, one for Lightburn. And it tells you the improvements over Laser Master, the improvements of Laser Master 3, probably over Laser Master 2. Might take a look at that just out of curiosity. Okay, one of the features I know this has is you can engrave up to 20,000 millimeters per minute. That's insanely fast. And I'm not real sure what you can actually engrave on that fast. Might play with some cardboard or something, but I know you're not going to get a good deep burn on any wood or anything. But that's going to be something we'll be playing with here. There's quite a few things you can read about on here. has a mobile app you can use. You can operate this from your phone. I don't like doing that. I do not like doing anything over Wi-Fi, because if your Wi-Fi would have an interruption, you'd end up with drop packets and you're going to have a ruined project. I always direct connect. Let's talk about security on it, security lock. Do a little read there. So what I'm going to be doing is not putting this card in there. I'm going to be putting a different one in, a blank one. Just, I know it operates as memory in there, so that's all it needs is some memory. Yeah, the next thing will be is to get connected, and one thing I found that's unusual is the USB cable for this is an 8A. It's not like a normal, what I would call a USB printer cable, because that's what I grabbed first, so I wouldn't have to unroll this, and then I discovered that isn't going to work. There's a little port up here in the front corner. I'll get this over here and plugged into my laptop. And we'll get the power brick here. And that also plugs right into this front corner up here. Oh, I don't know who twisted that one up. They were having fun doing it. I'm going to cut that tie off. Yeah, a little kinked up. We'll get that straightened out over time there. We'll set that up here to the side. Plug that in. Make sure my e-stop isn't tripped, and it is. If your e-stop button happens to be down like that, that means you're going to be locked out. You won't be able to do anything, so you're going to need to turn that. Make sure it's released. Turn the key to on. Push the power button. And when you push the power button, you're going to have to hold it for a couple seconds. You can't just push it and let go or it won't do anything. So it looks like it's going to home itself. Okay, we're homing here. And we have a green light. There's a code in the back of your manual here that tell you what all these different lights mean here. And it's flashing between green and amber, so I got to see what that is. Okay, it's actually orange and not amber. Must have been the way I was looking at it. So green is normal idle status, and when the orange flashes, it's looking for a Wi-Fi connection. It blinks 4 times, and it's looking for Wi-Fi, and I'm not going to get into that right now. What we need to do first is get this thing connected in Laser GRBL and Lightburn. Okay, we'll start out here with Laser GRBL. Get connected in that one first. Yeah, we'll download the new version later. It was just that easy. So that one was pretty simple. So if you're not familiar with Laser GRBL, when you open the software up here, you have to choose your COM port. And of course the baud rate is 115/200 for most lasers. And you just click on this one here, and you're connected. Okay, I'll walk you through setting this up in Lightburn. And I've already have it set up in here. I want to make sure everything worked first, so we'll bring this up here. So if you've never used Lightburn before, there's a lot of tutorials on there. If you could get right from Lightburn's YouTube channel, or if you really want to get into detail, Louisiana Hobby Guy is the guy to look for. He's got a lot of videos on how to navigate Lightburn and a bunch of different things you can do with it, and free libraries. I am not going to duplicate what he's already done. So if you have a new laser, you click on Devices. And of course, I already have this in here. You could click on Find My Laser, and it may or may not find it. Click on Next, and it didn't find it here, so we'll just cancel that. Create it manually. It's not difficult. It's a GRBL laser. Just click on Next or a USB connection. Call it what you like. You'll need to put in your sizes here. If you're working in metrics, it's 400 millimeter by 400 millimeter. If you're working in inches, it's 15.75 by 15.75. So you would just type those in. Click next. And you would auto home on your laser on startup because this does have a homing function on it. Front left is the origin. Click next. And here you would just click finish and it would add it. I'm not going to add it again. But that's all there is to it. So we'll get out of here and I'll go over here and I will connect to it. Down here to the Laser Master 3. And it is homing. And right up here it'll tell you it is ready. That's all there is to getting connected in Lightburn. Of course you're going to want to see it work. Well, first you need to set your focus. And you drop this little kickstand down right here. And you loosen this little thumb screw. You wait till that just touches your work. Tighten the thumb screw back down. Put the kickstand back up. And I'll send this home. I've got a little simple line engrave I'm going to do here. And this is just a scrap of 1/2" MDF, which just barely fits under the rail because I'm sliding it in from the end. I probably should have cut it down, but I didn't. So we're homed, and of course you're going to want to know what my settings are. So I'm doing 3,000 millimeters per minute at 80% power and just a simple line engrave, working from absolute coordinates in Lightburn. So we'll send it. Well, there it is, and it's not real dark because I would normally do this with fill, but that would take quite a bit more time. That kind of gives you an idea here. Get you zoomed in on it a little more. Well, there it is there. So there's a basic assembly and how to get connected in Laser GRBL and Lightburn. Pretty straightforward. There'll be more videos coming up on this. I'm going to be comparing this to my Laser Master 2. I'm also going to be doing comparisons with the X-Tool D1. I will get the air assist hooked up. There's a little port right up here on the top of the laser head. That's where this tubing would plug in. And you'd put your air pump on there and we would have air assist. I'll do some demonstrations with cutting. And line engraves, fill, offset fill. I'll be doing quite a few different things with this here coming up in the future. But first I need a little vacation, so I'm going to be gone for a while. Good for me. So if you got anything out of this, appreciate getting a thumbs up. Always helps the channel. And if you'd like to get one of these, there'll be a link in the description where you can get one. And if you do purchase one, I do get a small commission from that. It does not affect your cost whatsoever. So thanks for watching. I'm Roger in the shop. We'll see you in the next one.